Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Cynthia Ng. 2 people aboard a light plane were killed when the aircraft crashed in Kapar, Klang this afternoon. Selangor Police Chief Datuk Hussein Ormar said the deceased were the pilot and co-pilot of a recreational flying club. Preliminary investigations revealed that the 2 were Malaysians. According to the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, the plane's last contact with air traffic control officers was at 1:35 p.m. and no distress calls were received. It had taken off from the Sultan Abdul Aziz Shah Airport in Subang, Selangor at 1:28 p.m. for a recreational flight. Fire and rescue teams from the Kapar Fire and Rescue Station were dispatched to the location. The plane was a BK-160 Gabriel model. Civil servants will be assessed using a new demerit performance evaluation or DEEP system from this year onwards, says Chief Secretary to the Government Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali. He said the implementation of the system has been agreed upon by the Public Service Department.
According to him, under the system, the evaluation method would start with 100 points, which would then be deducted under the demerit system if an officer failed to meet the set target. He also stresses that the new system is not intended to punish any party, but to ensure that the evaluation system remains relevant. He added that an accurate and fair evaluation is important and can have an impact on the civil service. On another matter, Muhammad Zuki said the study on the new retirement system for civil servants was in its final stage, and the results will be presented to the Cabinet in the near future. He reiterated that the implementation of the new scheme is necessary due to concerns about the government's ability to sustain the fiscal burden with the current pension plan.
Malaysia will experience drier and hotter weather due to prolonged lack of rain in the final phase of the northeast monsoon, expected to continue until the end of March. Malaysian Meteorological Department, Met Malaysia, warned that clouds and rainfall would be reduced in most areas, especially the north of the peninsula, including Perak, Pahang and Kelantan. The agency said hot weather during this period is a repeated phenomenon that occurs annually every February to May. It added that during this time, daily maximum temperatures can exceed 35 degrees Celsius in early afternoons. But this year, higher temperatures are expected due to the strong El Niño phenomenon. Met Malaysia advised people to take steps to reduce water usage and limit their time outside of buildings to avoid overexposure to hot weather. The public were also urged to be conscious of weather changes and to obtain the latest information and warnings from Met Malaysia's official website. After 75 days of campaigning, Indonesians go to the polls tomorrow to elect a new leader. Astro AWANI's editor and producer Fauzi Zin reports from Jakarta on what to expect and what's at stake.
I'm here at Komisi Pemilihan Umum KPU, and today marks the end of the quiet period leading up to Indonesia's 2024 general election or Pemilu. Tomorrow, the focus will shift to Election Day, which begins at 7 a.m. and ends at 1 p.m. A massive security operation is underway with more than 196,000 police officers expected to be on duty at some 820,000 polling stations nationwide. The race for Indonesia's leadership features 3 candidates, Anies Baswedan, Prabowo Subianto and Ganjar Pranowo. Meanwhile, Mohaimin Iskandar, Gibran Raka Buming Raka and Mahmud MD are vying for the vice presidency. The campaign has been intense, marked by allegations for interference and fraud, as documented in the widely circulated social media documentary called The T Vote. Tomorrow's result depends on one candidate winning more than 50% of the vote and at least 20% of the vote in 20 provinces. Failure to do so will trigger a second round on 26th of June 2024. Quick count results will be broadcasted on local TV stations tomorrow evening, while official results may take up to as long as 35 days to be finalized. We will keep you updated on the voting process and share any developments as they happen here on Astro AWANI. That's all from me and Astro here. Back to you, Cynthia, in studio.
A nation of 17,000 islands stretching across 3 time zones. Indonesia's preparations for the general election are undoubtedly a massive undertaking for what is said to be the world's largest single-day election. Nearly 205 million Indonesians are eligible to cast their votes, making this one of the world's largest exercises in democratic participation. But it's not just about electing a new president to succeed Joko Widodo. Tens of thousands of candidates are vying for approximately 20,000 national, provincial and district positions across the nation. Some 10,000 candidates from 18 political parties are competing for seats in the 580-seat national parliament alone.
Kesiapannya sih sekarang udah 98% udah siap. Semuanya alat apa segala macam udah disiapkan semua, jadi tinggal mengikuti acaranya aja besok.
Alhamdulillah sudah siap semua untuk semua yang sudah akan terjadi besok, yang mudah-mudahan kita itu tidak akan terjadi apapun. Kita aman, terkendali dan kondusif.
With the majority of the electorate under the age of 40, presidential candidates have been actively seeking to win over young voters. Pollsters have indicated that Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto is the front-runner, with predictions suggesting he may win the first round. However, whether he will secure enough votes to win outright or be forced into a runoff remains uncertain. We'll go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Stream rancangan kegemaran anda bila-bila masa di Astro Go. Di mana-mana, walaupun ketika di luar negara. Hanya perlu download to go.
That was amazing.
Berita hebat untuk pelanggan Astro. Kini anda boleh buat turun rancangan anda dengan Astro Fiber 500 Mbps pada harga RM90. Tiada had.
Jangan lupa bawa balik.
WhatsApp kami sekarang.
Thailand's former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra has been granted early parole, paving the way for his release from a police hospital in the coming days. Thaksin, who returned from exile last August and was promptly arrested, is among 930 inmates approved for early parole by the Department of Corrections.
According to the Justice Ministry, the 74-year-old became eligible for parole as he falls into the category of an inmate aged 70 years old. Or he has a serious chronic illness. In addition, he has already served more than half of his sentence. Thaksin was jailed for 8 years for abuse of power before a royal pardon reduced the term to 1 year. His return last year coincided with political newcomer Srettha Thavisin being chosen as prime minister on the same day. Srettha is from the Pheu Thai party led by Thaksin's youngest daughter, Paetongtarn Shinawatra.
President Joe Biden says the U.S. is pushing for a 6-week pause in fighting between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, in what he calls a stepping stone toward a longer ceasefire. He said this during discussions with Jordan's King Abdullah as they met for talks in the White House residence. Biden said the deal would start with a pause in fighting of at least 6 weeks before taking the time to build something more enduring. He added that the U.S. was working with allies in the region on a deal to pause the fighting to allow hostages to be freed and the flow of humanitarian assistance to increase. During the meeting between the two longtime allies, Abdullah also renewed his appeal for a broad ceasefire, reaffirming the need for the war to end now. The Jordan king warned against Israel's planned ground invasion on Rafah, where more than 1.4 million people are sheltering. Biden also said that civilians who are packed into Rafah are exposed and vulnerable and must be protected. Rafah has come under heavy Israeli airstrikes in recent days, with hundreds of casualties reported. Last week, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that he had ordered troops to prepare to expand its ground operations to Rafah. Over in India, police detained several farmers who were part of a massive march to the capital to demand minimum crop prices. Police also fired tear gas to disperse protesters at a border crossing between the states of Punjab and Haryana, about 230 kilometers north of Delhi. Thousands of farmers from neighboring states have marched to Delhi demanding a law establishing a minimum price for their crops and several other concessions, including loan waivers and a doubling of their incomes. 2 rounds of talks between farmers' union leaders and union ministers have so far failed to break the deadlock. Farmers say they will protest in Delhi until their key demands are met. The government fears a repeat of 2020, where dozens died in a year-long protest that ended only after ministers agreed to repeal controversial agricultural laws. But 3 years on, the farmers say other demands have yet to be addressed. India's farmers constitute an influential voting bloc, and analysts say the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be keen not to alienate them. Held annually on 13 February, World Radio Day celebrates the powerful medium of communication that has stood the test of time for over a century. We caught up with Priya Prabhakaran, Head of Content at Astro Audio, to discuss the importance of radio in shaping our society and what to expect from its evolution in the years to come.
With radio, it's a medium that's been around for more than 100 years. And it is the fastest way to communicate with people. And in terms of the way we get to do our content and information, it's actually really, really fast. So we get to entertain, we get to inform. And this has been a medium that has been around for years, and it's still relevant till today. So to celebrate this, to kind of keep showing the awareness about how all of this is still relevant in this day and age, it's still the fastest way to get the information out to everybody. What has changed over the years is that we're no longer just FM. And I'm speaking from Astro Radio's point of view, right? Because last time you would just focus on whatever is on the airwaves, whatever is on air. But now we focus more on a digital space. We also focus more on ground space. So you're reaching people, yes, through the massive reach, the mass audience, but we also go through different platforms. So the main fundamentals are the same, which is the human touch, but we can go into different spaces and different platforms also.
Other than that, Priya also recalled the importance of radio during the COVID-19 pandemic. She said the human connection it brought made it irreplaceable in the world of rapid technology and AI.
Before the pandemic, a lot of people would say, oh, who listens to radio anymore? There was all these other streaming options available. But what happened during the pandemic was that a lot of people could tune on radio and they could hear somebody talking to them and being relatable, because we're all experiencing the same thing together, right? We were also very confused as what was going on, and we didn't know how long things were going to change and stuff like that. So in terms of that, the human connection strengthened and actually kind of enhanced and gave like a new revival to radio after the pandemic. So in terms of like what kind of challenges, now you have AI. Can AI actually take over? I don't think so, personally. It can help us in terms of maybe getting our work done a bit faster, in terms of getting the information prepared and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we should always still have that human that is delivering so that we can connect to our listeners.
Priya also reminded all to be mindful of misinformation coming from the internet.
The competition now is between radio and the internet. Because we do get a lot of information now from overseas, and there's not much filters going on. So in terms of radio, and especially Malaysian radio, we need to make sure that we are mindful of all our key pillars. There are rules that are in place, but we can also get our listeners to a point where they can think for themselves. So we give them the information, but also at the same time, it has to be with our filters, because we are Malaysians at the end of the day.
That wraps up AWANI tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching and good night.